Throughout history, motorsport has been ruthless and can lead to some of the highs and some of the lowest of lows that you can ever experience in life. But there's always one common run every single time you enter a championship. Every single time you step out onto the track looking to put yourself in front of the pack. There can only be one that ultimately takes the crown for the championship. Tonight, at ERA Sunday Championship, tonight, here at Nürburgring, tonight, for the final round of the ERA Sunday Championship, we're about to see a fight on an entirely new scale. We're about to see championships won or lost. We're about to see kings crowned and others dethroned. Tonight, we're about to experience 90 minutes of heart palpitations, of drivers pushing themselves to the absolute limit. Teams risking it all to go for glory. But only one can call themselves champion for season 15 of the ERA Sunday Championship. And it is going to be extremely tight. It's going to be extremely close. And in every single category we've got here of our gold, platinum, and diamond, fought it out throughout the season to come down to Nürburgring to decide the championships, to say whether they will be the winners. It is all on the line. And let's take a look at the points, because before we kick off our 90 minutes worth of racing around this beautiful circuit of Nürburgring, I need to tell you that there is no idea of what the weather's going to do. There is no idea whether there's going to be rain, whether it's going to be sun, whether it's going to be shine. It is all on the cards and up to fate to decide. It is going to be that hard of a fight. And around Nürburgring, well, we all know everyone worries about the corners. Yokohama curve into turn one is always a heart-breaking moment as you dive around it, head into the Mercedes arena, down towards the Ford curve, into Dunlop Curvier, that 180 back as you shoot your way through to Schumacher S's, keeping yourself flat on that tap and pushing yourself a little bit more as you dart through the left-hander, short straight into the long right of Westerner curve, head into Avonbogen as a quick right and hard-braking into the NGK chicane before you reach the Coca-Cola corner. This is what the drivers are going to have to fight for. As we take a look to our gold champion, it is Hanso Voss leading out the pack with 79 points after his drop round. Richard Oakes lies in second with 62 points, and Jim Nielsen sits 2 points behind him with 60 points. Federico Calgero sits on 56 points. Aaron Schengel goes and fits in with 48 points, tied with Christoph Rolotsky's 48 points. Al Perry sits with 32 points, with Patrick Bars 2 points off the back of him. Finn van Holland on 26 points, and 5 points behind him is Marseille Sarja. At 1 point was leading this championship. That is our gold division. Let's take a look over to our platinum, because it's just as close. It is Karl-Heinz on 69 points, but chasing him down is the American Miles Stone, who has been fighting to keep up the pace. He's 67 points. 1 point off him is Skurt Reynolds. The two have fought it out in gold and fought it out in platinum, but only one will be able to go after Karl-Heinz for the championship. David Borschke sits with 62 points. Don't count him out of the mix, as he has shown great pace towards the end of the season. Chris Wall sits on 52 points and has really dug deep compared to last season. He's wanting to end this on a high for that top 3. Simon Kusat sits on 48 points, only 8 points ahead of Lewis Knight. Plus, 1 point off the back of him is Lucas Collab. Ray's William on 25 points, and Richard Van Heerd sits on 20 points in that top 10. Taking a look over to our diamond. This is exciting because so far we have had a 7-time champion, Christoph Peterson, on the back foot for the very first time, and the one that has held the crown the longest in ERA history, the driver that has broken record after record, now sits in second place because Ben Hicks, the ERA Highway Patrol, said, well, I'm not quite sure if I'm going to do well this championship, back in round 1, has scored himself 85 points, 4 points ahead of Christoph Peterson. Ernest Lindberg sits down in 68 points in third place. He is not safe, however, as Ruben Heineke sits on 54. Jason Farmer close into that fight with 48 points, 4 points off previous third place holder Tarmo Malmi sits in 44 points in 6th place. 7th is Sean Skitter on 36 points. David Schutten on 21 points, 1 point ahead of David Roth, and lying in 10th, Stephen Milano James with 18 points. So we can see an absolute change here tonight. We are going to witness history being made here at ERA for the Sunday Championship. And I promise you, we are in for a race of note. We are in for the best of the best, to put it down. And who is going to get it? We got Antonio Campbell and the likes of Onizuka saying, let's go Flying Finn. Let's go Griffin, boys. Let's go Jason Farmer. But let's go down to the track for qualifying underway. So as our drivers take their way around the circuit, trying to get to grips with it, they did have a little bit of a drizzle in the practice session, and now just trying to get to grips with a very green track. David Roschke goes out of the pit lane first with the DeVault colors. The Track Tool team looking to fight it out for the championship. Patrick Miles also out there in the Red Bull colors, wants to make this work in his favor. He wants to be part of the fighting top runners. It's not going to be an easy one. Talking about the teams, it is Stun Possum Racing in first place on 278 points. Second is the Cyber Racing Miltech team on 271 points. So, line 7 points off the mark. Cyber Racing Oriska sits on 253 points in third place. The Pedal Files sits with 236 points in fourth. Los Pantos Hermanos on 208. ERA Highway Patrol sits on 148. Track Tool Team Black sits on 125. Los Pantos Hermanos Worldwide sits on 112. Track Tool Team Yellow sits on 94 points. Donut Racing sits on 36. 617 Racing on 20 points. The Can't Catch Up Racing sits on 19 points. Insanity Racing sits on 2, tied with Tree House Trail Bullets with 2 points. Manufacturer standings, it is Mercedes leading out on 410 points, Ferrari with 392 points, Lexus on 357.28, because yes, we like to get complicated. Aston Martin sits with 319.56, Porsche with 300, Lamborghini with 260, Ford with 255.46, BMW 250.9, McLaren 249.4, Bentley with 240, Nissan with 232.5, and Honda with 191.5, rounding out our manufacturers championship. But that being said, we're in for an absolute gut-wrenching run from these drivers. They're going to have to figure out what are they going to do to really step it up. And as we got Petchbars making his way around, he has to keep an eye as he's fighting in the gold division. The red borders are the gold division. The silver borders are your platinum division. And your diamonds are in the white borders. Keep an eye out for the ERA Highway Patrol, especially this Lexus out here. Ben Hicks has to beat the likes of Christoph Peterson this race. He has to win. The pressure to do that is insatiable. This is a champion that has been at the top of the game for the longest time here at ERA. Record after record after record. Now defending his throne in the GT3 ERA Sunday Championship, and is gonna have to do it at the top level run. Remember, he has to also fight with his own teammate Ernest Limburgs, who looks to get in the fray. Now 31 cars join this race. Andre Serradio comes in from Project Vapor. He has been out of commission for quite some time and now joins in to back up Richard van Heed, who sits in that top 10. Richard Oakes a little bit further down the Rustbacker Porsche, having a good time out there, has been consistent, but not quite where he wants to be. El Perry in the Nissan GTR will be looking to put the hammer down. But at the top of the qualifying board currently is Christoph Peterson, and was only faster in Sector 1 than the rest of his competitors. He's backed up by his teammate, who was faster in Sector 3, the 488 Ferraris, the oldest of the Ferraris in the sim, leading out 1-2. The Fear the Bones drivers, 0.097. The pressure on both these drivers to really get the hammer down and make it work is immense. Skurt Reynolds sits up in third place and top of our platinum board. He's got David Shooten trying to close up in fourth. Carl Heinz in fifth. Ben Hicks, the championship in his hand. The first time Ben Hicks will ever hold that first place championship, and looking to carry that through into season 16. This is all or nothing for him. Sean Skitter down in 7th position. David Broschke along with David Young in 9th. Jason Farmer lies in 10th at the moment. Daniel Mutschma gets beaten out by Ulrich de Jager of the Griffin Sim Racing team, trying to put the hammer down. Daniel down into 12th position, but it's Ernest Limburgs that puts the fastest time on the board, and 0.1 quicker than his own teammate. Ben Hicks trying to fire back, will come across the line and puts himself into first, being the fastest in Sector 2, improving in Sector 1 and Sector 3, and puts himself on that top shelf by 0.095. Carl Heinz trying to retaliate back. Remember, this team, the Cyber, where Miltech Racing needs to fight it out. They're looking for that championship. They're looking to take the team championship. And Carl Heinz also is fighting for the Drivers' Championship. He wants to be at the top of his game. Sean Skitter, a little bit further down, is in 5th. Skurt Reynolds lies down in 6th. David Shooten, David Young, and Miles Stone in 9th. Daniel down in 10th place. But Paul Fenter returning to the circuit here at ERA, and I know what's happening here. He has returned to back up his teammates like Christoph Peterson, who was his former teammate. The Fear the Bones driver was a logistical nightmare driver, and he is here to back up Sean Skitter. Jude Neville coming back into the fray as well as a logistical nightmare driver to back up his team. Aaron Shergill tries to make up as much time as possible. And Aaron's not a slouch right here, leading out the gold ahead of Jim Emilson, who gets beaten down by Ulrich de Jager, now in second place. I mean, this is just some incredible running. I mean, this is going to be a tough fight. Chris Wall gets ahead into 15. Jim Nielsen down into 17th. Andre Sorodio in 19th. He gets beaten down by Patrick Bars. But taking a look, drivers up on their game. David Young in the 315 Ferrari trying to claw his way through. 0.3 up on his personal best. Richard Verheerd will come across the line. 0.6 up on his personal best. Bumps him up into 19th position and a little bit closer to the Platinums. Lewis Knight putting the hammer down in that Nissan GTR. But a couple of drivers that are yet to put a time on the board. Simon Kussert, David Roth, Bearded and Badass, Paul Scaveras, and Lucas Collab still need to get a time on the board. And this is a bit of a worry. Simon, who is in the championship fight. David Roth, who is in the championship fight. And Lucas Collab as well, needing to really figure out the big strategies here. But Ben Hicks leads out with Ernest Limburgs in second place. Karl Heinz will be lining up in third at this rate, pushing Christoph Peterson in a favorable position as lining up behind his teammate Ernest Limburgs. And so far Peterson was up in sector 1, massively down in sector 2, but sector 3 was his personal best, trying to get a bit closer to that 154.192. 0.095 separates Ben Hicks and Ernest Limburgs at the moment. This is going to be a fight. This is going to be about bravery. This is going to be who can push themselves that little bit more. And with a 90-minute race, qualifying is seriously important to get every bit of advantage over your competitors to ensure that you are going to be in the fight for that championship. As we see Sean Skitter in 7th place, 0.6 up on his personal best, will be coming across the line. This has been an absolute flyer of lap behind Richard van Heerde, utilizing that toe, and will come across the line. Sean Skitter up into 5th and closer to Christoph Peterson. Ben Hicks currently the fastest around, losing out a bit of pace under braking, and now needs to really dial it up as Christoph Peterson fires back and puts himself into first place. 0.02 across between himself and Ben Hicks. Ernest Limburgs, however, may be the zone in the shoe, firing back as he's 0.1 up on his personal best. Remember, he's set a 154.2. He is 0.1 of a second off Ben Hicks. Karl Heinz, 0.17 off. Sean Skitter, 0.2. Our top 9 under a second of our leader, and all having a chance to fight it out. Paul Fenter returning after driving Lamar Ultimate for so long and getting so lost. Well, he's found his way back home here. Ernest Limburgs now trying to put the hammer down. 0.2 up on everyone. Can this be his lap? This has to be an absolute flyer to lock out that front row between himself and Christoph Peterson. Ben Hicks will be pushed to third if he can get this right. Ernest is doing everything he can, makes his way around. Is this going to be the flyer that everyone's asking for the Fear the Bones to lock it out through the NGK chicane? 0.2 up. It's still valid in through the final corner at Coca-Cola. Gets onto the gas. 0.3 up. Ernest Limburgs looks to go and take the first place spot, and will do as he comes across the line. Christoph Peterson will be in second, and Ben Hicks, unfortunately, could not fire back. Will start in third with Karl Heinz. Sean Skitter going to be firing a little bit lower. Drivers currently up on their times. Richard Oakes, Lewis Knight are out improving their times. Here comes Lewis Knight, unfortunately losing out in the final corner, and his 0.1 up is going to leave him in 25th position, but Richard Oakes hoping to get 0.5 up on his personal best. This might move him into the top 20. He's got to carry the momentum through. 0.6 up. Richard Oakes battles his way across the line. Is it going to be enough? He launches his way through into 18th. Well, we got our drivers lining up, getting ready to go. The reminder of the championship. This includes their drop round. Remember, your worst round gets dropped. However, you're going to have to get it right. For our gold division, it's Hanso Foss for 79 points. Richard Oakes on 62 points. Jim Nielsen on 60. Federico Calgero follows in 4th. Aaron Shergill sits with 48 points in 5th. Christoph Rolotsky in 6th. El Perry in 7th. Patrick Bars down in 30 with 30 points in 8th. Finn van Hollen and Marseille Saja sits in 10th. Moving on to our platinum, it's Karl Heinz on 69 points, Milestone on 67, and Scott Reynolds on 66. David Rotsky on 62, Chris Wall with 52, Simon Kusap with 48, but didn't set a lap in qualifying. Lewis Knight down in 7th with 40 points. Lucas Collab will sit with 39 points. Ray Williams on 25 and Rich Vineyard on 20. But history to be made. Ben Hicks looking to usurp Christoph Peterson. 85 points to 81. Ernest Lindbergh's on 68 points. Looks to try and put himself into 2nd place. If any of Ben Hicks and Christoph Peterson does not finish this race, he will get 1st place. Ruan Heineke lies in 4th with Jason Farmer, his teammate right behind him. Tamo Malny sits in 40 with 44 points. Sean Skitter, David Shooten, David Roth, and Stephen Milano James looking to fight it out. And we're already getting note from there. Hanso Foss cheering on, saying, good luck, guys. This is going to be a fight for the championship. And Hanso Foss is an absolute trooper out there looking to make it work. But, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, are you ready for the moment where everyone's been waiting for? Welcome to the moment. 7 rounds conclude our championship. 6 rounds fought across cold, hot, rain, shine, night, from highs to lows, from cars flying to cars landing up with mechanical failures. Tonight is the closest we have ever had a championship here in ERA. Tonight is not only just the closest championship for our platinum, but this is the closest championship for our diamond, our gold, our iron, our bronze. Tonight is the closest championship in ERA history across the board. Drivers in both Server 1 and Server 2 are putting it on the line. We always talk about teaching. We always talk about learning. But today, tonight, this morning, this afternoon, this evening, no matter where you are around the world, this is the moment that you put it all together. The weather may shift. The drive may be different. Your pace over 90 minutes can set you up for failure or for fame. In 90 minutes here at ERA, we're about to see an incredible fight for the championship. And will history be made? Will kings be crowned or dethroned? We're about to find out Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to ERA. And let's do it properly. To do justice, got to go back and quote a certain announcer in the world. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, let's get ready to rumble here at Nürburgring for round 7, the finale. This is it for the ERA Sunday Championship. Diamond, platinum, gold, all will be on the line for the best in the world. This is a world-class championship. You are fighting with nearly every single country in the world on an ACC grid that none can match. You're about to see a grid that will be fighting for everything. And man, oh man, if your name could be Jardier, well, sit down, learn, watch, as you're about to see racing that is at its top level. For those that are wondering, oh, where's the Broadbent? Broadbent is sitting in the grandstands, about to see legends taking to the circuit to show what they can do here at ERA. History to be made. 3 championships on the line tonight for the ERA Sunday Championship in Server 1. And in Server 2, we have got championships on the line across the board. There is no one safe in the top 10 for any of the championships. And you out in the virtual grandstand are gonna get it blow by blow as the drivers pull their way along. So for the final time this season, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, Evolution Racing Academy Sunday Championship. Let's take a look at our grid. Ernest Lindbergs starts out in first place with his teammate Christoph Peterson in second place. Ben Hicks lies in third. Carl Heinz in fourth place, followed by Sean Skitter, David Young, Paul Fenter, David Schuten, Skurt Reynolds, Richard Van Heed, Miles Stone, Jim Emilson, Jude Neville, Daniel Mutsuma, Jason Farmer, Andre Sorodio, Richard Oakes, Ulrich Diaga, Aaron Shergill, along with Paul Scaveras, Chris Wall, Flynn Van Hollen, Patrick Biles. And we move down to Lewis Knight, Ronald Priggs, Cedric Muir, Al Perry, Simon Cussat, David Roth, Bearded and Badass, I still would love to know your actual name, Lucas Collab in 31st, and 32nd, David Roschke. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, we're about to see history made here for the very first time. And if you're just joining us, well, let me explain the rules to you. We got 2 mandatory pit stops that the drivers are going to have to serve. Plus, depending on how their races went in the past, they get success penalties. Third place is 5. Second place is 10 seconds. And first place is 15. However, if you get a penalty by being a naughty driver, well, Schuten sits with that. A 55-second penalty attached to him in 8th place. Schuten's not in for the drive here to win, but can back up his teammate. It is Ernest Lindbergs out with 5 points, and you've got the line, well, 5 seconds. Milestone with 5 seconds. Richard Oakes with 10. Chris Wall with 10. Flynn Van Holland with 15. Lewis Knight with 15. And this is just what a race it's going to be. Further down, as we look at our grid, drivers lined up, and a drive-through already handed in for Lucas Collab as he gets ready to go. But ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, as they start making the way to the NGK chicane for the last time, the drivers will be able to stretch, open their hands up, wiggle their fingers, move their shoulders, and say their farewell to season 15. But this is going to be the race of champions. And don't say that Ernest Lindbergs is going to mind out of the way for Christoph Peterson, because remember, who's third place in the championship that can maximize it here? Welcome to the fight. Ernest Lindbergs makes his way around the corner. Christoph Peterson will line side by side, 70 kilometers an hour. We go down to Jim, our flag marshal, ready to call green. Ladies and gentlemen, 1 hour and 30 minutes of racing, 2 mandatory pit stops, and we are racing with Ernest off to a great start, trying to lock out his teammate. Goes to center, moves to the right, and here comes Ben Hicks. Charges in, try to put his nose on the inside. Sean Skitter gives him a clip. He slides, and Ben Hicks turned round in the turn one. Miles Stone also gets caught out. He's a little bit further down, but Sean Skitter now getting overtaken by Shooten. Skitter, with that light touch, has just turned round our championship leader. However, Paul Fenter going down the order. We have got Carnage that has just gone down. And take a look at this. El Perry trying to keep himself all in check. A little bit of elbow rubbing going on as he continues to make his way through. But it's contact further up the road as it's Paul Fenter that gets caught out. It's Chris Wall. It's Jason Farmer. It's the Miltech Racing as everyone starts to fall through. Cedric Muir as well darting down the field. It is a lockout currently with Christoph Peterson up into first place ahead of Ernest Lindbergs. And Karl Heinz down in third place, going and fighting his way through. Will be trying to keep the power on for the Platinums. David Shooten down in fifth place will be reporting in to his teammates saying, listen, this is where the guys are, let's move. Sean Skitter in fifth. David Young along with Jude Neville trying to make up some time. Jim Emilson a little bit further back at ninth. Rich Vanieta, Daniel Mutsuma, and Skirt Reynolds now feeling the pressure. Ben Hicks up on the inside. Ben on an outright charge. Skirt Reynolds with some severe damage to his Mustang will be battling to keep that car going. And it's Ernest Lindbergs that's actually into the dirt. Lindbergs has turned round. Lindbergs is over into the dirt. What on happened to the 95 car? Did he get caught out by his own teammate? Diving into the NGK chicane, over the first curb, over the second curb, wheel snapped, and that is all she wrote, trying to bring it back, sliding out, nearly going onto the Nordschleife, and watches the field to come through, trying to get himself going before he sees Ben Hicks overtake him. Ernest Lindbergs down into 12th position with Skirt Reynolds just ahead of him. Ben Hicks steering up the road, saying, right, that's a teammate out the way. Let's go hunt down the former champion. Richard Oakes, Andre Sorodia fighting it out along with Finn van Holland and Simon Kusat side by side. Patrick Bowles trying to make his way through. The BMW driver not having an easy time out there with a bit of understeer. Paul Scavera is very, very close into the back of Patrick with Miles Stone, a championship contender, down in 19th position. So it is in for the fight. It has been drama, 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 in the immortal words of Murray Walker. Paul Fenter, David Roth now continue to fight it out. Roth in that 488 puts the pressure on Paul Fenter to try and figure out his way up through the order. After a little bit of a problem, Paul Scavera is landing up in the dirt and now has David Borski passing around the outside, making it look too easy. And we have got our 488 of David Roth into the dirt. The 488 has gone and lost track. He was fighting against Paul Fenter, looked around the outside. Paul goes for the cover, and we do see, unfortunately, runs out wide, clips a little bit of dirt. Paul gets upset, and it's a turn round trying to avoid Paul Fenter. David Roth launches down into 27th position. Richard Oakes fights his way through in second place. He's got Andre Sorodio keeping pressure on the back of him. Finn van Hollen and Simon Kusse, who's been on the climb back up through the order in the big Bentley, up on the inside of Finn van Hollen into turn one. could try get the drive out. Unfortunately, Porsche very nimble. Oh, contact between the two. A brilliant save from Finn van Hollen as he's able to keep going, but the tyres are not going to enjoy that. Andre Sorodio battling to keep on the back of Richard Oakes. That Rust Bucket Racing Porsche is not hanging around for anything at the moment, trying to close up the gap. Ben Hicks right onto the back of Daniel Mutsuma with third place in the championship. Ernest Limburgs on his tail. And Daniel, all the way out from Japan, the proper racing driver, will have to keep a very close eye on the likes of Ben Hicks, who is not going to make this easy. He wants to clear this pass as fast as possible, but Daniel is fighting to get closer to Richard van Heed, who is currently lying third in the Platinum Division, right behind Jim Emilson, who leads out the gold. The child play Chucky McLaren continues to slaughter on and continues its reign up through the order, but the three-car train starting to form behind Daniel, Ben and Ernest. Keep the pressure on. Daniel goes to the outside. Ben Hicks tries to go for the inside in the NGK chicane, has to back out quite a bit, and immediately Ernest Limburgs tries to close up the gap, looks for the inside, outbraked himself, trying to get past. Not an easy time for our drivers. Skurt Reynolds into the pits, first of our drivers in the pits, and has a lot of damage on the car. Further up, however, we do see the likes of David Schutten closing up to Karl Heinz. But reports coming in, Cedric Moore off into the dirt and now heads towards pit lane. That Ferrari looking very, very second-hand. The 68 not having a good time out there. And we also got reports of the number 5 not having a good time. That's Simon Kussat, who runs into a little bit of contact with Finn van Hollen. Both of them nudging each other through the final corner. Coca-Cola and Patch Miles try to capitalize on the moment. You can see fishtailing left, right, and Milestone immediately closing up on that gap as fast as he can, with David Broschke going right onto the back of him. David Broschke now dealing with Paul Scaveris around the outside, and Paul not making it easy, keeps the pressure on. The Track Tool team having to open the door ever so slightly, and there is Aaron trying to capitalize on the dive, trying to make it work. The door is open a fraction, but he is going to make it a double door on the way through. I mean, this is a huge fight on the way through, but we are getting reports from Hanso Voss, and a massive shout out to Hanso Voss on this one, you legend, going and saying that Ben Hicks, this man right here, who's fighting out with Daniel Mutsua, needs third place to win the championship. That's all he needs to do. Get third to win the championship. He needs to fight it out. And at the moment, Daniel's not making it easy to get on by, and Ernest Limburgs will do everything he can to make it a hard fight. Daniel loses out that 10th position, tries to look back for the inside. Now Ernest Limburgs, who was keeping the pressure on, now starts to lose track of Ben Hicks, who wants to stretch open the gap between them. It is going to be a monster of a challenge for these drivers to push themselves right to the top, to really stand on the gas, to make it work. Well, Daniel loses out to Ernest Limburgs. We're getting reports that Lewis Knight and Aaron running into a bit of a problem. So here's Lewis Knight out there in the old Skyline colors. Bit of a change up to have some fun. Hard braking. Aaron just ahead of him, trying to get the pass into the final corner, backed out of it, gets right into the back of that Ferrari 296, turning Aaron down, and we'll have to keep that well in mind. Richard Oakes dealing with Finn van Hollen, Simon Kussat. Remember, these two were brawling a little bit more, and there it is again, the contact. Same corner. This time, Finn van Hollen saved it only just, but Simon moves up to 14th. Finn defends his position against Miles Stone. Patrick Biles tried to capitalize. Unfortunately, wasn't able to make work. And Patrick down into 17th. Miles up into 16th. As they continue on the charge, we are seeing fights up and down through the field. Paul Scaveris and David Borschke also close in on this gap. David Roth dealing with Aaron at the moment as the two of them fell down. But it's the 911 The 992 landing into the wall. That is a 411 broken. The Marlboro coloured Paul Scaveras, who joined in, had a bit of fun. The Porsche not working out in his favour. Puts the hammer down. And where did it all go wrong? Over the curb, tail starts to snap into the dirt in the Schumacher S's. And that's all she wrote for that car. Paul's needing to go and get the car towed back to pits for a bit of repair work. David Schutten all over the back of Karl Heinz, trying to figure out how can he get by. Karl leading out the Platinum Division. David Young in second, and Rich Van Eed up into third. But it's Jim Nielsen leading out the Gold Division. Richard Oakes second in the Gold Division, with Finn van Holland lying in that 15th position. Holds third of the Gold Division. Our Diamonds is Christoph Peterson, who's opened a 5.7 second gap to Karl Heinz, and will continue to stretch that gap open as much as possible. David Schutten down in third, is currently holding second of our Diamonds, with Sean Skitter holding third after that little bit of a tap into turn one that changed the outcome of this race thus far. So let's see how this is all going to turn out, as Jim Nielsen now feels the pressure from Richard Van Eed. 0.4 of a second on the back of him. Ben Hicks closing up that gap is 2.1 seconds, with Ernest Lindbergs chasing him down, trying to figure out how he can get past and put himself a little bit ahead of Ben Hicks. It's going to be a huge run for the two, as they need to put the power down. They need to make it work. Ernest Lindbergs runs out a bit wide. Ben Hicks closes up the pace to Richard Van Eed. He will see the fighting duo just ahead of him, and will be wondering if this little fighting duo can be done and dusted before they arrive on the scene. Last thing you want to get caught out is into a 4-car train when no one is getting the advantage, except the car lying at the back of the train has everything to give, nothing to lose, to get past the drivers. That is a crucial thing that Ernest Lindbergs currently holds at the moment over Ben Hicks, as he's 0.4 of a second, utilizing that slipstream. This is where you start going back to strategies. Richard Oakes, Simon Kussat, and Finn van Holland fight it out as they continue on the charge. Simon late on the brakes, catching up to Richard Oakes, but just not having the run into turn one to make it work out in his favor. Richard still holds on to that 13th position and second in his class, with Finn van Holland trailing on behind Simon Kussat. Simon's acting as a bit of a buffer at the moment, but at the same time a little bit of a distraction in this race. As he looks over his shoulder, he sees that he's got a problem right on him. His drivers trying to figure out their way through. Simon looks to put the pressure on. This is our closest fight out on circuit currently, and it's starting to build. Finn van Holland, Milestone, Patrick Bowles, and along with David Borschke close up that gap and looking to stay in for the fight. Finn van Holland will be itching to get past Simon Kussat. Oh, off into the dirt, gets unstable, saves it. Milestone snaps on by, and now Patrick looks to go for the inside line. The BMW driver not having the drive to work out in his favor, and there is David Borschke. But we're getting notice Sean Skitter off into the dirt, going into the final corner. The NGK chicane takes yet another victim. Sean Skitter down into 11th. We'll have Ben Hicks with the biggest smile on his face as he goes and sees him off in the distance. Says, right, you cleared. Thanks for the contact a little bit earlier in the race. Richard Van Eed looking to defend his line against Ben Hicks. These two will go elbow to elbow with one another. Richard just races everyone, doesn't worry about the class, as we do see Ernest Lindbergs gets sideways, saves the car. Beautifully done as he slid it the whole way through magically. And let's quickly go and take a look on board with him into the helmet cam. Our driver's eye as we watch this magnificent slide between himself in the car. You're going to see the cross arm coming into the left-hander. So he tries to go around the outside of Richard. Goes late on the brakes. There is the slide. Beautiful cross arm. Beautiful save. I've got to give that a 7 out of 10 for execution and preparation. However, angle not really where you want to be in a drifting contest. You want a little bit of the nose facing further down. Now, Ernest Books continues to fight out. He's got Rich Van Heed, who will defend the 2 generations of Ferraris right here. The 296, the most modern of them, the turbocharged V6 versus the V8 monster, the 488, the predecessor to the 296, will be in a brawl. And unfortunately for Ernest Books, this is a nightmare case, as already nearly a second is Ben Hicks starting to open up that gap. So Ernest gets right into the back of Richard from here. He tries to go around the outside, has the gap closed up on him over the NGK chicane, looks towards the inside line into the final corner, late brakes, couldn't get it done, and will have to wait yet again. A little bit further down, Richard Oakes going to lose out of position here. Milestone up on the inside into the NGK chicane, gets the pass done. Richard Oakes now in closing distance. Vin van Holland hunting him down, looks to try and get on by, but Patrick does for the inside line, gets the drive. David Broschke and Chris Wall continue to keep the pressure on one another. Some great racing being had by our drivers, with one retirement looking to be Paul Venter, unfortunately out of the race. And oh, that is a big one. Vin van Holland getting all out of shape, brought into the nose of David Broschke. The two of them landing up, clashing against one another, picking up a bit of damage. That's going to be a little bit of breathing room for Richard Oakes. That Patrick now has an opportunity to go on the attack for Richard Oakes, and we'll have Chris Wall tailing him at the moment, looking for any way to get on by. Chris Wall wants to make this work. He wants to be a little bit closer to try and fight his way through, as Chris is in for the running of the championship, much like Patrick and Richard for their individual classes. I mean, this is all changing as the race unfolds, as Ben Hicks dives past Jim Nielsen. Jim losing out that position, but take a look. Richard Van Heed, who now closes on Jim, will be going and smiling. He's got someone to race ahead of him, and Ernest Lindbergs will be sitting frustrated in 9th place. Can't figure out how to get past, and he's watching Ben starting to climb back and get closer and closer, trying to figure out what does he need to do. Ernest tries to go for the inside line. He goes late on the brakes, sends it understeer, floors it. Does he get it to work? Chops over the nose of Richard and will take that 8th place. But Richard, now in the tow, looks to try and fire back at him. Ernest now looks for the defense. He goes around the outside. Take a look at this. Richard down the inside, late on the brakes. Late break, unfortunately, didn't work out. Up and under goes Ernest, and Richard tries for the inside line. Unfortunately, not able to get it hooked in. Ernest Lindbergs now needs to try and gap it away from Richard, but his tires are starting to feel it. He's been pushing that little bit harder every single time and loses out more time. I mean, this is now over 2 seconds away from Ben Hicks, who's now onto the back of Jude Neville. Now, Jude will be having a chat with the rest of the Logistical Nightmare Racing team, and they do have communication to the Fear the Bones drivers, saying, listen, chaps, there is Ben Hicks on the back of me. Don't make it easy. Make it a fight. Ben Hicks gets it out of shape, under braking into the 180 at the bottom. Jim Nielsen immediately closes up at the gap at him, and that has brought Ernest Lindbergs back into contention to fight it out with Ben. I mean, this is all or nothing. This is a brawl that we're starting to see through the order. Scott Reynolds getting ahead of L. Perry, who's into the pits. We're starting to see those pit stops coming in. Jason Farmer, Ulrich Diogo, Scott Reynolds, Cedric Muir, all dived into the pits for various contacts and damages to deal with. But Jim Nielsen fighting out in the gold division. He's got Rich Van Heed come on by. He's not going to fight Richard this time around. He's going to say, listen, you get on ahead. I don't want to fight you. You're not my problem. My problem is Richard Oakes a little bit back. He's got a 10-second on his next stop, but he is the one I am deeply concerned about. David Schutten, 10 seconds off the back of Christoph Peterson, 1.3 seconds off the leader of our Platinum, Karl Heinz, on the back of him, and David Young, second of our Platinum. Rich Fiend currently holds third of the Platinum. So we're starting to see races unfold as drivers trying to step up their game, get that little bit of pace to fight their way through. David Borski off circuit, lost a bit of time as he does have the light of Lewis Knight and David Roth get past him. And David Roth is going to be thinking, what does he need to do to try keep the pressure up? Lewis Knight wanting to get closer to the Platinum division. He wants to get closer to the top end as he lies in 20th position. You can see some battle scars on that Nissan GTR. He's not having a good time out there in the Pennzoil colours and hoping that it can all turn in his favour. Chris Wall now puts the pressure on Richard Oakes, saying, listen buddy, you're second in the gold. You can either fight me or let me go. What's going to work out for you? For Richard, having Chris Wall as a buffer to keep Patrick at bay, who currently is third in the running for the gold. Finn Van Hollen not too far off the back of him. So Chris Wall is going to look to try and clear as quick as he can, as he needs to make up a bit of time. David Walski feeling the pressure from Aaron Schurgel, who is not having a easy time out there. Aaron looking to keep the pressure on, looking to try and get past the Track Tool team. 31 cars still circulate around this circuit, but 32 start this race. One retirement being Paul the Wolf Enter. Ben Hicks and Ernest Lindbergs continue on the charge with one another, and this has gone into the favor yet again for Ernest Lindbergs, as he now sees Ben in his mirrors, as Jude's not making it any easier here. Ben tries to go for the inside line. He tries to also defend at the same time, but Jude Neville is fighting for overall position. Oh, once again, Ernest gets it sideways through Mercedes Arena. But Jude Neville, who at the moment is just having a good race, he's enjoying his race right now. He's holding a position. Don't worry about it. But what to be said is he knows that there's a championship fight behind him. He knows that his former teammate Christoph Peterson is up in first place. As we see Richard Oakes and Chris Wall yet again crossing swords with one another. Andre Sorodio onto the back of Sean Skitter. The two South Africans look to brawl with one another and see who's going to fight. One is supporting the Sharks, the other one supporting the Blue Bulls. For any reference to the South Africans out there, you're going to really not like me on that one. Jude Neville, Ben Hicks and Ernest Lindbergs continue their fight with one another. The Fear of the Bones driver, the Pirates, looking to take the authority down. Ernest Lindbergs goes and keeps the pressure on Ben Hicks, the absolute sheriff of the team, now has a problem. Wouldn't call him the sheriff, I'd say at this point he's the commissioner to try and keep the momentum up. Jude Neville up in 5th position, has no worry in the world. He's just enjoying his drive, but every time he goes for the defense, it helps Ernest Lindberg and Christoph Peterson just that little bit more for the championship, to get that little bit further. But Christoph Peterson must also be considerate. If the likes of Ben Hicks gets 3rd place, he's going to be in for the win here. So Jude Neville unfortunately could not defend that run and will drop down, and Ernest Lindbergs, however, couldn't get the run. So Ben Hicks is officially up into 3rd for the pros. That's what he needed to have, and take a look how quickly he opens the car up for the likes of Ernest Lindbergs. I hate to say it, I really hate to say it, but that right there was a multi-21. Lock, stock, and barrel. You could see it coming into play, but man oh man, well done, because now what Jude Neville's done is he's thrown a cat amongst the pigeons, the cat that's been starving, waiting for its food for a long time, among some pigeons that can't fly, and he has now gone and had Ernest Lindbergh's in for the fight to try and take third away from Ben Hicks, because at current, if Ben stays where he is, he will win the championship. He will have to push that little bit more to get it working. Carl Heinz and David Young are fighting out for the platinum, first and second. Rich van Eerd down in third place in the platinum. Jim Emilson, who has driven a very smart race thus far, holds first to the gold, and he has got a mountain of cars to leave the likes of second place of the gold division, Richard Oakes and Patrick, a little bit further down. Now, this is going to be a proper run. And we're getting more info coming in. Hanso, man, if I could see you, I'd kiss you right now. But you're more than welcome to come to the commentary box and give us some of the insight, just as a on-the-floor down driver, as Hanso Foss giving us that little bit more information. I love the community for this, because Hanso is one of the he's fighting for the championship, unfortunately stuck at work, but doing all the calculations in the background for our Diamond Division, saying now Hicks and Peterson are tied on 99 points, and it's on countback. Hicks has more wins this season than Christoph Peterson. So, if Ben Hicks stays where he is, he takes the championship on the most amount of podiums versus the likes of Christoph Peterson. That being said, Carl Heinz gets ahead of David Schuten. Schuten drops to third. David Young is now in fourth. Is there a little bit of a team game coming into play here? Schuten is losing a bit of time. And I'm not talking about a second. I'm talking about 3 seconds off the mark from Carl Heinz on his last lap. He did a 157 versus Carl Heinz doing a 155. And Schuten starting to drop more and more. David Young getting closer. And Ben Hicks gets past El Perry, who just clears the way for the likes of Ernest Lindbergh's. This may be a very interesting run, as teams are absolutely going knives in the dark, in the kidneys of one another to work through. This is discussions down pit lane, and who owes who a milkshake at the end of this, because we have got everyone throwing everything they can to win, and we're starting to see some smart driving, some team antics. This is going into an absolute mad scenario, and well, I can only say we might lose real world physics at this point. We might go and see a bit of clown physics come into play at this point, because there is nothing, and I mean nothing, on the cards. You cannot say anything for certain, because each of the drivers are showing off what they can do. Beard a Badass moves out of the way. He is a blue flag, but he does also bring Andre Sorodio, Sean Skinner, Daniel Mutsuma, Rich van Eerd all a bit closer to one another. After that, Patrick dives into the pits. Lucas Collin is needing to do his first pit stop, but it's Jason Farmer in 21st. He's done this every single race, an early pit stop to make it work. And I mean every single race he has done it, because even in South Africa, he does the same thing. Andre Sorodio keeps the pressure on Sean Skitter as they continue on their drive. Christoph Peterson on Thursday got third in the Race Face Off Pro Championship as he was just enjoying the drive. And now Christoph Peterson is in to the pits. Carl Heinz will be in second place, but quite possibly inheriting first place as we get closer and closer to the 30-minute mark being completed of this race, and 90 minutes, a 1 hour 30 minutes. So this is where it gets tight. Schuten dives up into second place and now leads out our Diamond Division. He has got David Young putting pressure on the back of him. Ben Hicks 6 seconds off the back of David Young. Last lap times, however, Schutten did put the power down. He did a 155.7. David Young with a 156.2. Ben Hicks with a 155.0. Jude Neville with a 156.3. Ernest Lindberg's into the pit with Christoph Peterson. So the Fear the Bones drivers all thinking the long game here. The question is, did Roth do the same thing? It doesn't look like it. David Roth continues out, so it's a discussion between Peterson and Lindbergh to try and figure out where they're going to go and how they're going to move forward in this fight. As we've also got Finn van Holland diving into the pits to do his first pit stop of the race. They got 2 pit stops needing to be done for each of the drivers. If you don't do it, it's 180 seconds added to your time per pit stop that you don't do. So that's why it gets a little bit closer to who needs to fight out, who needs to push himself out a little bit more, who needs to figure out the drive. It's Rodeo, Skitter, and Daniel all fight it out in 7th, 8th, and 9th position. David Young closes up on the back of Schutten a little bit further up in the order, but a close fight as David Roth, who was part of an earlier problem, now climbs up into 14th, looking at the back of Richard Oakes, saying, right, buddy, now you are in for a good run for leading out the gold division, but you got to give me some room here. Aaron, second in the gold. Jim Nielsen, currently third, as we do have drivers pulling into the pits. David Young, Richard Van Heat, all pull into the pits to serve their first pit stop. So, in the running order as it stands, ladies and gentlemen, it is Karl Heinz leading out our Platinums and leads out our race. David Schutten leads out our Diamond and is second in the race. Ben Hicks is second of our Diamonds, third in the race. The likes of David Young, who's in pit lane, so we will see a change up there. That will be Daniel Mutsuma going up into second of our Platinums, and Simon Kussat will be further up in the order. He'll get third of the Platinums. But our gold division, Richard Oak leads out the pack and trying to make his way through. Lucas Collab going and fighting out Christoph Peterson, who's just come out of pit lane. And take a look at this. Christoph Peterson having a bit of a tough time to get round the Cyber Racing team, as it is going to be Lucas. Just keeps the pressure on him, saying, listen, buddy, I might be in the Platinum, but come next season, I'm fighting you in Diamond. I'm going to make your life a little bit tricky now to show that you better keep your eyes open. Christoph Peterson still has the fastest lap of the race with a 154.1 and had clear air at this current point. However, he is not clear to get past the likes of Ben Hicks further up the road. Richard Oakes side by side with likes of David Roth. And that is Paul Scaveras, who's come out of pit lane. He is a blue flag car, but Paul's is going to continue on the drive. He nearly bails into the back of David Roth, outbraking himself now. Richard Oakes gets the clean pass around the Marlboro. Says, listen, I might be a rust bucket racing, but I really want to keep the pressure on. I want to try and get closer to David Roth. Andre Sorodio, Sean Skitter, and Daniel still keep the drive on one another. The Honda NSX look towards the inside of the McLaren, with the Ferrari of Andre Sorodio keeping a very close onto the back. This is a fight for 5th, 6th, and 7th on they continue through. But it is Daniel Mutsua who has got nothing to lose right now, as he's currently second in the Platinum division, and he's got 2 Diamonds chasing him. Simon Kussat is quite a far back. He's over 6, going 7 seconds at this point off the back of him, as he's got Sean Skitter 0.3, Andre Sorodio 0.8 to 0.9, and Simon Kussat sitting 5.5 seconds behind him. So Christoph Peterson leads out those that have done their first pit stop. Lewis Knight and Lucas Collab are down in the order. They are still needing to get their pit stops their first pit stops underway and sorted out. But it is our top 12 that are yet to do their first pit stop. Sean Skitter, quick flash of light saying, listen, Daniel, I'm on the back of you, buddy. Yeah, I need to try and figure out how I can get round you. But Serodio keeps the pressure on, saying, come on, Skitter, make any move. Get frustrated. I want you to start getting frustrated. Lucas Collab now finding out. It's got Ernest Limburgs as Lewis Knight goes and gives him the gap. He knows, look, I'm not in the fight with you, Ernest. I'm going to let you go, but you are going to be the battering ram for me. You're going to help me climb up this order and be part of the fight. As Lucas Collab a little bit further up the road in 14th position is who I want to get after losing a little bit of time. So, little game starting to come into play here. Lucas Collab with a drive-through penalty at the start of the race. Now trying to fight his way back through the order. Daniel keeps ahead of Sean Skitter, but only just. Sean not able to get the drive out of turn one. He tries through the Mercedes arena, couldn't quite get it working. Into the left hand and into the quick right. Going to take a very wide line. Late Apex on the power on this NSX. Swools up those turbos to chase down the McLaren. And Andre Serodio just giving himself a little bit of room here just in case. Daniel stuck on the outside as there's Sean Skitter to go for the outside into inside. And take a look at Serodio. Oh, wow. That frog in my throat just jumped out. Apologies. Serodio getting past Daniel Mutzma, so close to one another. Holy cow, that even Kermit the Frog had to jump out and check what happened there. That was a hell of a pass that comes into play. David Roth having a little bit of problems with the internet, however, down in 11th position, as we did see a quick flash to the pits and quick flash back up. So, drivers now trying to figure out what is the plan here as we all start to settle down. We're starting to get that pace a little bit slower, but a lot of the drivers are sitting with their first pit stop done, and they will be pushing it to roughly 20 minutes left in the race. For those that are still out, they're going to be aiming for 45 minutes as a pit stop to try and keep it going. Now let's look at this current pace as Cole Hines leads out the field with a 155.4. His last bit with David Schutz with 155.7. Ben Hicks with 155.5. Christoph Peterson sits with a 154.18. Now, what is it going to look like for our drivers? Well, at current, it doesn't look like we're going to have any rain that's going to be on the way. It was thought there was going to be rain, but it's starting to clear up, and the drivers are starting to take notice of it. They're seeing that, hang on, there's clear skies, there's no clouds, and it's just getting sunset here at Nürburgring. The track temperature is 24 degrees. The air temperature is 23. Christoph Peterson gets on past his own fellow team and will continue on the drive. But the fear was of rain. A little bit of rain in practice has now gone away. So hybrid setups are not the most for the race. And that means we're in for a rather exciting time because we're guessing what this weather's going to do. The wind looks like it's turned. It has warmed up, and drivers now need to think about the strategies of what they're going to do to make it work. Ben Hicks into pit lane. Christoph Peterson comes up, heading towards the NGK chicane a little bit further up the road. And let's see, will Ben Hicks get out ahead of Christoph Peterson? Will he be up in front of him? As we keep a close eye on this fight. I mean, it is turning into an absolute challenge for drivers. Let's actually see if we can bring up a basic HUD to tell us what's going on. Not quite. Doesn't want to do that. Oh, right. So I was trying to look for the weather, unfortunately, and it didn't want to come up there to show on screen, but Christoph Peterson will go and get around Ben Hicks. Now Christoph Peterson puts himself back into strong contention. Ben Hicks loses out to Ernest Limburgs. So the undercut has worked on Ben Hicks, who drops down the order. So this is gonna be a very, very interesting race, because drivers are trying to figure out what can do. Richard Oakes trying to defend his overall position of 12 against the likes of Ernest Limburgs in 13th, both in two separate classes. However, Richard Oakes only can play into the favor of Ben Hicks here. As remember, third place in the pros means that Ben Hicks gets the championship win. For Ernest Limburgs, he needs to ensure that does not happen. So he climbs up past Richard Oakes, does get the pass done, and Dustin Richard tries to tighten up that inside line as he wants to try and cover off the likes of Lewis Knight's little attempts 6 seconds back. But Jason Farmer also coming through the fight. Remember, Jason Farmer was part of our earliest pit stops in the race. With damage on the car, he was able to get himself going with only a short fuel, and now chases Lewis Knight on the way through. Question comes in, and we've now hit this mark, 49 minutes in the race. Folks, I got to tell you something. Interesting times ahead, as Christoph Peterson and Ernest Limburgs have both gone out on different strategies. Hear me out on this one. Different strategies? What do you mean different strategies? David Roth dives into the pits. Ernest Limburgs was stopped in the box 10.2 seconds, which means he's only put in fuel. However, his teammate Christoph Peterson 32.5 in the box, which means for all those at home that are not sure on that time difference, it means Christoph Peterson has got a fresh set of boots on this car and will be pushing it through to the end. David Roth is into pit lane, but Ben Hicks, who's gone on by, has done the same thing. Put a set of tires on the car. So our drivers looking to undercut and overcut have now taken away their only chance to set their tires up. As we do see, that's Ronald Priggs, who's down into the dirt. What on earth happened to him? Let's quickly go on board with the BMW driver, Ronald, who was just going all fine. Fifth gear, fourth, into first. Hard braking, that was a quick time. And a failure on the car brings him right to a stop. So that, unfortunately, is Ronald Priggs, who has towed back to pits. Black Lung Bandits going and having a catastrophic error. Very interesting to see the car from fifth to first, means that engine took a solid knock to it. We've come across where there's been an engine failure before, but have we seen it again here at ERA? It's going to be a first as Jason Farmer fights out the Pennzoil Colors, the Nissan GTR, the Godzilla fights out, and Lewis Knight will be continuing to hold that 12th place into 11th as they get past the like of Daniel Mutsua and Richard Oakes. So Jason Farmer hunts down that inside line, not able to get it working out in his favor. Will wait a little bit more. El Perry, however, runs into an issue. He's stopped out on circuit and also runs into a bit of a weird time. So let's take a look at what happened to him and jump on board the Nissan GTR of El Perry. Coming out in the Mercedes arena, on braking, gets it all looking just fine. Nissan GTR driver gets on the loud pedal and stops. What on earth? That is 2 cars all having just a stop at some point for whatever reason. Jason Farmer and Lewis Knight get past, and Jason Farmer up into 11th position, gets past Lewis Knight. But that being said, Jason Farmer is in the Pro Division, while Lewis Knight sits in the Platinum. Drivers now trying to figure out what is going to be the plan, what is going to be the exciting time, as Shooten leads out our Diamonds. Jude Neville is second, Sean Skitter in third, followed by Andre Sorodio in fourth of our Diamonds. Cole Hines leads out our Platinums with Simon Kusat, Milestone, and Chris Wall rounding out in 8th position, but he's got into the pits. He's got a 10-second success penalty he's going to have to serve as well. And what we do with the success penalties is to help bring the field a lot closer to one another. 10 seconds if you got in second place in the previous race, 5 seconds if you're third, and 15 if you got first place. However, the big one here, Shooten, sits with 55 seconds. That is nearly a minute around the circuit, and that is half a lap that he's going to have to wait in the pits to try and get himself sorted. So by the time he exits pit lane, he will have waited nearly 2 laps before he could exit the pits after that. So what he's trying to do right now is keep the pressure on Carl Heinz to try and see if he can get past, but at the same time is acting as that little bit of a stopgap for his teammate Ben Hicks to try and gain any advantage. Carl Heinz dives into the pits. Carl wants to make this work out in his favor as Simon Kusat runs second place, in Miles Stone, who's also fighting for that championship. Both Simon and Miles are looking to close up. They want the gold, they want the crown, and they are going to be fighting their way through. Is this going to be a pit stop for them, as they need to get into the box as being the very few drivers that are still out there? Simon Kusat says no thank you, he's going to keep going. Milestone is also going to stretch open the gap a little bit more and see how far he gets. Lewis Knight, now down in 11th position, will be one of the very few drivers left with 2 stops on the cards. We're down to currently 50 cars in the sim, and we got Ronald Priggs back out. The Black Lung Bandit returns to the circuit after having a bit of a problem. He's got Paul Scaveris a little bit further up the road. His teammate, who is now 2 laps ahead, continues on the drive. Sorodio in pit. Carl Heinz leaves pit lane. Right, EO. Let's see how this is going to work. Christoph Peterson, Ernest Limburgs currently hold 6th and 7th position, and Ben Hicks down in 12th. Now, the undercut worked well to get past Ben Hicks, but how is this overcut going to look like? Andre Sorodio trying to defend his position down in 11th, but himself and Ben Hicks are going to be brawling it with one another. Both are in the Diamond Division. Both can fight for overall on-circuit position, but this is a nightmare for Ben Hicks, who wants to try and get the phone call to the Project Vapor team and say, listen here, but you got to really try and clear out. I need to get past you. I need to get a bit closer to the front end. You don't know what's on line here. For Andre Sorodio, he is a driver, whether it's a championship, a solo race, a practice, hot laps, whatever it is, he's going to give it 110% right the way through, and that is exactly what he's doing to Ben Hicks. And you can see Ben starting to have that frustration coming into play. Shooten into the pits, could no longer keep going and will serve his stop, plus his 55 minutes, as we do see Sorodio go out a little bit wide. He defends against Ben Hicks and continues on the drive. The Lexus not having an easy time to get past the Ferrari, but it's now straight line power, as Richard Oates is the first of our drivers to complete their pit stops and continue down to the end. 40 minutes and 55 seconds remain of this race, and we've got Shooten and, interesting enough, Ernest Limburgs gets into the pits. Limburgs takes a different strategy. He gets into the pits. Question is, has he got enough to put tires on the car and fire back at the likes of his own teammate and Ben Hicks? So it's going to be a close fight between them. Karl-Heinz, who was leading out the Platinums, now falls behind Lewis Knight. Lewis Knight still needing to do his first pit stop. So a net first for Karl-Heinz in the Platinum, as Simon and Miles still also need to do their first pit stop. And once again, we talk about the greens coming up. Ernest Limburgs completing all his stops will now fight his way through. Track starting to cool down a little bit more. Air temperature cooling down. This is going to be interesting as Ernest Limburgs does come out of the pits. He's got a fresh set of boots on that car, 32.1, and now needs to fight to get that climb. He needs to get back into the 154s to be able to get ahead of Ben Hicks, who holds 9th position. I mean, this is just a brawl. This is a fight of note. Karl-Heinz and Lewis Knight continue to brawl it out with one another. They are trying to do everything they can to keep going. And that is not to forget our gold division at the moment. Jim Emilson leads out our gold division with Ulrich de Jager running in second, and Patrick down in 17th is third of our gold drivers. We can't count them out. Richard Oakes is the only one of the golds that has completed all his pit stop. Lewis Knight dives into pit lane, frees up from Karl-Heinz. So now Karl can stretch that gap a little bit further, move his way up through the order. Ben Hicks up into 8th, Serodio into 9th, 10th goes to David Young as they fight their way through. But Ernest Limburgs is the one I want to keep an eye on, because he is the gauge of whether that undercut on the second pit is going to work out in his favor. Ulrich de Jager dives into the pit lane. Daniel Mutsumo continues on his drive, and here comes Ernest Limburgs. Flat taps the whole way through, in through the top of Coca-Cola. Down the main straight he goes. Is he going to get ahead of Lewis Knight? Miles Stone getting a bit of a yellow at the moment. This is going to be a proper run. Jason Farmer up into 6th, right behind chasing down Christoph Peterson. He's stuck behind Richard Oakes, who is a lap down on him. But Christoph Peterson still holds the fastest lap time of the race with that 154.2. Christoph Peterson has been keeping within the low 155s. So at current, Christoph Peterson is still in for a good time, and he's being matched by Ben Hicks at current. Karl-Heinz on the back of Jason Farmer, looking to try and get by. Jason Farmer in the Diamond Division has now got leading out into this race was Karl-Heinz for our Platinum. However, it's going to be a tough time. As you can see, Jason Farmer trying to do everything he can. Karl-Heinz looked around the outside. Richard Oakes, who is a back marker at this point, is now holding both drivers up. And oh, very, very close. That is contact. Richard Oakes off into the dirt. Karl-Heinz goes and loses out. But that was a bit all over the show. All drivers trying to figure out what happened. So let's take a look. Richard Oakes in the Porsche is a lap down. He's a blue flag car, but he doesn't have to move off the racing line. He's just not allowed to defend when the faster cars come through. Jason Farmer really trying to look for those lunges to get on by. Karl-Heinz gets to drive out of the NGK chicane, dives for the inside line, and Jason Farmer, watching to his right, forgot about his brake marker. Unfortunately, clips Richard Oakes, and immediately Karl-Heinz says, "Thank you very much, buddy. I'm going to take that position and go with it," putting in a second gap between himself and the likes of Jason Farmer. Milestone out of pit lane. Jim Nielsen into pit lane to get their stops underway and get them done and dusted. Sean Skitter leads the race with Jude Neville holding second at the moment. Simon Kussat leads out our Platinum. He's running in third. But all three drivers need to do their first stop in this race. Leading out those that in Diamond that have done their pit stops is Ernest Limburgs down in 14th position, much like Jim Nielsen, who has now completed his final pit stop and will be getting out ahead of the likes of Patrick in terms of the pit stop. Patrick is currently into 14th, Jim down into 21st on that last pit stop. However, that pit stop needs to come into play. Now, no penalties are out on the circuit for any of the drivers. This is now planning down to the wire. This is how far you're going to get yourself going. Jason Farmer and Ben Hicks into the pits. So Ben Hicks reacting to the likes of Ernest Limburgs. The question is he going to get out in time ahead of Ernest Limburgs, or will he lose out? Well, here's Ernest Limburgs. Gets a little bit of a snap oversteer as he comes off the curb, trying to make his way around the circuit. Not an easy time out here for the 488 driver. Is it close enough, however, as he makes his way up to the NGK chicane, hard on the brakes, aim for the curb on the left-hand side, goes right over, taking everything he can to close up that gap. Ben Hicks still in pit lane. It's a long time in the box for him. Ernest Limburgs tries to get himself going, and Ben Hicks exits pit lane with Milestone getting around him, dives up on the inside of Milestone, goes and out breaks himself, and now continues on the drive. Milestone will be fighting Ben Hicks at the moment as Ben's trying to get some life into the car. 5.7, so that is a refuel, and continues on his momentum. We do get, however, reports of the 488 driver, David Roth, running into a little bit of a problem. He fell down the auto rather substantially from this, over the curbs, and just bounced the Ferrari into the dirt, and really gets a proper snap into the Coca-Cola bin. Looked like he had it until under braking, it just didn't want to stick. Life became a little bit difficult there. Jude Neville up into first place with Christoph Peterson in second. Sean Skitter into pit lane along with Simon Kusset. David Young keeps pressure on Andre Sorodio. Karl Heinz continues on his drive and yet to get himself going that little bit more. He will inherit first place of our Platinums yet again. It's been a race for this Mustang. The Sabre Racing team are going to be quite happy about it and will be keeping a very close eye. I know Tomo Malmi will also be in their ears saying, listen, come on guys, we've got to focus down here. Championship on the line for driver and team. Andre Sorodio defends against David Young. These two absolutely brawling it with one another and having an incredible drive. But I do want to talk about the elephant in the room here. Ben Hicks got out ahead of Ernest Limburgs. Milestone is that buffer. As we do see Limburgs come out of the final corner, Hicks is now closing up this gap. He is doing everything he can to try get back into third for the pros. And that means he would take the championship. If you want to talk about risking it, this is risking it. As we do see David Schutten back out onto the circuit, and he's fighting against the likes of Aaron Schurgel. I've got to say, David Schutten, despite 55 seconds penalty added to him, has still made himself up into 16th position now, getting past Aaron and opening up that gap. That is really well done. He spent 91.5 seconds in the box and is now in 16th. Gotta say, that is very, very well done. David Roschke and David Roth pull into the pits. Bearden Badass pulls into the pits yet again for another stop, and that is not going to be an ideal one for him. He did have some damage on the car. He went and got that sorted, but this would be his final stop of the race and getting it through to the end. So, Christoph Peterson in second place, Karl Heinz in third. David Young fights out against Andre Sorodio as they fight it out in 31 minutes. We will be talking about our championship winners, but we also got to talk about on-screen fights, because David Young, who's currently second in the Platinum class is putting the fight right to Karl-Heinz and doing everything he can to try and close up that gap. And at the moment, he is lying roughly 13 seconds behind. But that being said, one little fundamental he's got to be so careful about is Andre Sorodio is not in for the championship points, but Sorodio is part of Project Vapor. And Project Vapor's driver that's in for the points, Richard van Heed, who will be closing up the time. Now, Richard is holding currently 3rd place of the Platinums and looks to keep the pressure on. Chris Wall getting past the likes of Lucas Collab as those two continue on their drive to try and get back into the top 5 of the Platinum division and outdo one another. Chris Wall and Logistical Nightmare Racing Team will get radioed in that Jude Neville's into the pits. Christoph Peterson will inherit 1st place yet again as he continues on his drive. Karl-Heinz will be running in 2nd place at this point as he makes his way through the NGK chicane, and Andre Sorodio won't be close enough to get the pass on Jude Neville as he's 12 seconds back. So Sorodio, I don't think is close enough to make it work. It is possible, but it's going to be cutting it so fine that Jude Neville is going to have to brawl it out as he comes out of pit lane. Well, let's take a look. I've possibly eaten my words, and I definitely have taken both of my shoes, left and right, put them in my mouth. That is it, done, dusted. Sorodio up into 3rd in this race and has got David Young currently finding out in 2nd of his class right on his tail. Rich van Heed currently 8.6 seconds off the fighting duo. He's got Sean Skitter going and closing up the gap. Take a look at Simon Kussat trying to make his way closer to Jude Neville, who comes out of pit lane in 8th position. He lost out to Daniel Mutsuma, but is considering the long game in this as he's now in front of Ben Hicks, who has to clear both Simon Kussat and himself to move his way up through the order. Because that current, Peterson, Sorodio, Jude Neville are your fighting runners. Sorry, it would be Christoph Peterson, Sorodio, and Skitter that are holding the top spots. And Sean Skitter, who fights it out against Rich van Heed. These two have come to blows more than once as Richard trying to make it work. A little bit of pressure put on both. Both drivers quite aggressive in their defensive driving. And this time, however, it is going to be Sean Skitter getting the pass done around Richard. Will go and continue on their way. Richard a second back off Sean Skitter. Keep an eye on what he needs to do to try and close up that gap. But we are starting to see the breakdowns here. Ben Hicks, Ernest Lindbergs, Jason Farmer are 3 of the Diamond class have done their pit stops. And 1.8 seconds back off Ben Hicks is Ernest Lindbergs, who can possibly put the monkey wrench into Ben Hicks's plan here of that undercut on Christoph Peterson. Christoph trying everything he can to make the times work in his favor to try and get the jump on the likes of Ben Hicks, and possibly has done it. Because at the moment, he's 22 seconds ahead of Karl-Heinz. 13 seconds back from Carl is Andre Sorodio. 0.8 of seconds, David Young. Sean Skitter is 9 seconds back. Daniel Mutsua is currently 11 seconds back, but he's got Jude Neville for company. Jude dives to the inside line, trying to get the pass done and dusted. Gets flat on the taps and continues on his momentum. So good to see him out there, really putting the pressure on, trying to figure out the long game, the best game. What can he do to move himself up through the order? How far are they willing to go? How far are they willing to push these cars and ensure they go for the win? I mean, this is always a tough race, and 90 minutes is a long time to keep yourself concentrating on this fight, to keep yourself going in this race, to keep yourself in for the championship on the way through. So drivers hoping to get that a little bit more, trying to figure out what's going to be the best on the run. Now is going to be a waiting game of who is going to pull the trigger first. At the moment, Ben X losing out the drive, 155.1. Linus Lindberg's a lot faster than that, a 154.0 as he closes up on Ben Hicks and has really dialed in the pressure. This is going to be a wild race. Ben Hicks cannot afford to have Ernest Lindberg get round him. He's going to have to fight it out. A 3 seconds off a fighting duo ahead of them of Simon Kusset and Daniel Mutsuma, but you can see how hard that Ernest Lindberg wants to go for that inside line. Try and get it done. Finn Holland, a little bit further back, continues on his drive to really make it work. And it's going to be a proper pace all the way through of who's going to be able to get the run. I mean, this is always such a tough race for each of the champions. And Ernest Lindberg has gotten past Ben Hicks, but now Ben gets to reciprocate that pressure onto Ernest, trying to figure out what is he going to do to get the run here. Because Ernest Lindberg can be the crucial point to hold back Ben Hicks, to keep him out of that top three that is so needed for the championship. Simon Kusset and Daniel Mutsuma currently fight it out for third in the platinum here at the Nürburgring, and Karl Heinz leads out with David Young for the platinum class. But it is Christoph Peterson, Serodio, Skitter, and Jude Neville that are going to be brawling it out between one another to try and see what they can do. The discussions in the pits must be immense. The tension that the drivers are feeling is definitely there, but Simon Kusset looks for the dive on the inside, contact with Daniel Mutsuma. Daniel just holds it, but that is Simon barging his way through. Daniel says, you know what? Time to get in the pits then. That was decided. He's going to get in the pits, get that final stop underway, and try and get himself out there. Andre Serodio, David Young, all into the pit lane as well. So we're going to see yet another switch up, and where our championship fight currently lies between them, as you see Lewis Knight long since checked out of that one, absolutely as wide as can be. I think he's gone and visited the Hockenheim ring instead of it going on racing here at Nürburgring. Aaron fighting out against Richard van Heerd at the moment. Richard, who's trying to close up, wants to be in the top three of the platinum class and needs to do everything he can to close up that difference, to be part of that fight. He's ahead of Daniel Mutsuma and he's ahead of David Young. He is now back up into a very good spot, as Chris Wall is a little bit up the road from him, and Chris Wall needs to do his final pit stop. So, with that being said, we're now into a rather interesting stage of the race. In the final 21 minutes and 40 seconds, we are into a brawl as our top 5 needing to still do their pit stops. 10th place Chris Wall, David Schutten in 11th, still needing to do his final pit stop. And it's all or nothing for these drivers to give it that extra little bit as the lights starting to shine brighter here at the Nürburgring and continue to drive it out. They continue to fight for the top running order. Everyone wearing their heart on their sleeves here at ERA for the Sunday Championship, in the closest championship across all classes in ERA history. And I kid you not, 1 point between winners from our iron, our bronze, our golds, silvers, platinums, and diamonds, all having an opportunity to have their time in the sun. And at the moment, Christoph Peterson will be taking yet another championship win if, and this is a big one, Ben Hicks doesn't score third. And at the moment, he's lying down in 5th position with Ernest Lindberg's outdoing him by a good margin right now. At 154.2 on his last. He's down into those 154s. Ben Hicks still sitting in the 155s. Simon Kusat is the next one to be passed by Ernest Lindberg's. But Simon is fighting for overall track position, so he doesn't have to be the friendliest guy there and say, hey, listen, get on by. He can also get into a fight. That means he can possibly bring Ben Hicks with that 2.9 second deficit down and a little bit closer to the likes of Ernest Lindberg's. So getting on the gas, trying to figure out his way through. Ben Hicks is trailing off at the moment. The Lexus not having the legs to contend. He needs to think about the strategy here. He needs to really put the hammer down. He needs time. He needs the best lap times. He needs to bring out that qualifying pace over and over and over to make it work. Richard van Heerd gets on by. It does look like he has a bit of contact, however. The 131 driver up against the 20 car. And that would be Richard Oakes. What happened? So let's quickly take a look. Van Heerd, I think, just ventured off. I don't think this was contact. So it comes around the corner. Ooh, Aaron, a little bit of a touch on him. Oh, Daniel getting into the back of Aaron on that one. So the contact was actually a bit further down. Miles Stone bottles up Aaron, who dives into the pit lane. And Aaron getting put in a very, very precarious position as Miles Stone has David Young coming right up on the back of him. And Aaron now into the pits for the gold will lose out to the likes of Jim Emilson, who will retake pole for our gold division. Ulrich de Jager is going to be the next car to come on through, and Ulrich de Jager will be moving up in our gold division to try and make it work out in his favor. So Cole Hines still leads out our platinum and Simon Kusat second. However, they still need to do their final pit stop. Chris Wall, who runs third in the run for our platinums, is currently out there racing to the end with 17 minutes and 43 seconds to go. It is nail biting. It is absolutely all over the show, and you can't call it. You can't see how this race is going to turn out, because when you think that you've got a plan, when you think you got an idea, well, it all starts to change. It all starts to evolve. And Ben Hicks at the moment starting to run out of stamina at 155.7 on his last lap versus likes of Simon Kusat a little bit up the road with him that still needs to do his final pit stop to the 155.4. Ernest Lindberg's with a 155.067. Well, that's all going to change as he comes across the line. 155.1. Simon Kusat with 156.2 and Ben Hicks 2 seconds off the back. So 2.4 seconds. Ben Hicks tries to close up that gap, tries to be part of the fight as Jason Farmer gets past Bearded and Badass and keeps on the pressure of rivals of note, Project Vapor and Griffin Sim Racing Team. Andre Serodio, Jason Farmer look to brawl it out with one another as they make their way through. They've got David Schutten in for a bit of company. Schutten goes now, breaks himself. Bearded nearly into the back of Schutten, not expecting him to slow down to that point, saying, hey, listen, buddy, you got to really get the giddy up and go if you're going to get past me. And Bearded does not want to hold back at this point. He also wants to get the climb up through the order. David Young up against the back of Miles Stone will continue on his fight and will keep on pushing as we go back to one of our closest fights on circuit. Rodeo and likes of Jason Farmer, 0.3 of a second separates them. Richard van Heerd and Daniel Mutsuma currently 0.4. That is our second of the closest fights. Daniel continues to really go and fight it out. David Young has got Skirt Reynolds for a bit of company. Reynolds, a quick flash of light saying, hey, listen, I'm on my way, buddy. I'm going to come for you, whether you like it or not. We're in for a race. Sean Skitter gets it wrong into the dirt through the final corner. This is a crucial moment. All gone wrong. Gets into pit lane. He's lost out time. Skitter has lost out time and will be coming out behind Ben Hicks on that pit stop. Jude Neville is going to keep his foot firmly planted through the floor at this point and will be told by the Logistical Nightmare Racing team, go, go, go. Hammer it. Give it everything you got. Come on, Jude. You got to make this work. Ernest Limburgs up into 4th position will be going and keeping an eye on the battle as Limburgs now holds the crucial 3rd place in the championship. I mean, this is going to be a proper fight. So, Hunter Voss, once again, the man, the myth, the legend, and in the top 10 of the championship fight, not able to make it to the circuit due to work, and honestly, shame on work for not letting you come and join us here at ERA for the final round of the championship, but lovely to have you out in the virtual grandstands. Reynolds is 0.8 behind Stone, and that is going to be a very interesting run. And whoever finishes in front will be P2 in the championship for our Platinum division. So, Miles Stone and Skirt Reynolds currently fight it out for P2 in the Platinums. They are fighting tooth and nail to make it work. Both the Americans, the Stunt Possum Racing and the Fear the Bones Mustang driver, continues to brawl it out between one another. Daniel keeps the pressure on Richard. Sean Skitter up against the back of Jason Farmer, who keeps up against the back of Andre Sorodio. But it is Ernest Limburgs who holds 3rd place in the Diamond division. And the question comes down, Jude Neville being the linchpin here. If Jude loses out to Ben Hicks, if Ben continues his drive, if he continues to put the hammer down, he will get 3rd in the Diamond division. This is where the question comes in. Jude has got to put the hammer down and make it work in his favor. Sean Skitter getting around Jason Farmer will now try and close up to Sorodio. Farmer trying to utilize the toe. Daniel Mutsuma continues to try and keep his pace, but he's got Miles Stone on the back of him. Skirt Reynolds going off circuit and visiting the plantations as he's got David Young on the back of him. And this is all starting to heat up. That helps Miles Stone a little bit more, but he's got Daniel to deal with, who currently will be smiling ear to ear on his race. He's got likes of Richard van Heerd, who currently holds 3rd of the Platinums here at Nürburgring. We have got trains breaking out all over the circuit. Jason Farmer and Sean Skitter still find themselves behind the Project Vapor driver of Sorodio. We have got only 12 minutes remaining of this race. Championships to be set. As you can see, likes of Andre Sorodio goes to the defensive inside line, pushes the likes of Sean Skitter on the outside, loses a drive, and Jason Farmer closes up. Bearded getting into the back of them as well, saying, okay guys, you might be a lap ahead, but you got to get going. You got to make that move. Got to make it work. Simon Kusat, 2nd of our Platinums, right behind likes of Cole Hines, who is in 1st place. He's 23 seconds off the back of Christoph Peterson. He's been on a stellar drive to make it work out in his favor. 3-car train, the closest fight we currently have on circuit. Sorodio, Skitter, Farmer continue on their fight. Skitter look to the outside, swaps to the inside. Sorodio sweeping across the nose, making life a little bit more difficult. Jude Neville going and allowing Ernest Limburgs to get on by. Continues on his drive. and will be trying to stretch open that tank just a fraction more to keep ahead of Ben Hicks. Serodio, Sean Skitter, Farmer, Richard Fahid is also in a fight with Daniel. Miles Stone not too far away from Skirt Reynolds as they fight out for P2 in the championship for our Platinums as it's trains breaking out front to center. Skitter alongside Serodio. Serodio up on the inside now will be stuck to keep it working. He's got to be on the advantage, then into the disadvantage on the right-hander. And oh, massive contact between the two. Skitter getting Serodio through the door. That was a loss of drive for Skitter and a dive for Jason Farmer for the inside line. Can he make it work? However, tries to get it done. Skitter holds the inside. Farmer looks for the up and under. Serodio comes back into the fray as they continue on the drive. Miles Stone closes up on Daniel, trying to figure out where he can get the drive. Where can he get away? Skirt Reynolds all over the back of him with David Young scratching at the door, looking for his opportunity. Jim Emilson, Ulrich Diaga running first and second of the goals, and third is Patrick Valls, who's down the order. He wants to make it work. Patrick is not going to back down from this one. He wants to score every point. David Young looks towards the inside of Skirt Reynolds. He backs out of it though, thinking better of it and utilizing the toe instead to try and pull himself along. Miles Stone all over the back of Daniel Mutsuma as they continue their fight. The Japanese driver, the proper racing, continues to hold back Miles Stone, and as they go past part of our advertising left on the circuit, you can see Richard Fahid's going to be quite happy with this, seeing these two brawl it out, and a big lunge around the outside, and it's Miles Stone loses out the drive. Skirt Reynolds around the outside, gets it done. Here comes David Young. Skirt Reynolds rolled the dice, got the stake, guys. Miles Stone drops down, and what a pass there. Miles Stone threw away that, trying to get past Daniel Mutsuma. Now Skirt Reynolds is going to do exactly the same thing. Daniel tries to look on the inside of Richard Fahid, but it's side by side. Skirt Reynolds and Miles Stone completely brawling it out with one another. They are going nose to tail. David Young continuously fights it out with them. Miles Stone back up into B2. That's contact! 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 Skirt Reynolds, the drama is spun round, and he has just lost grip on second in the Platinum Championship. Skirt Reynolds has just lost second, and he's gone back to pits. He's gone back to pits, and I think we have just witnessed a retirement in the race. Skirt Reynolds is out of the race, and that means Miles Stone has taken second place in the championship for the Platinums as he fights it out against Daniel Mutsuma and Rich Fanieta. David Young went and absolutely gut punched him from miles back and through that Mustang round and devastated the chances. I think it was just the lightest of touches, but unfortunately in the worst of areas, and that has just taken the Platinum division and thrown it straight on its head. Miles Stone fights it against Daniel Mutsuma at the moment, but Christoph Peterson, Cole Hines, Jude Neville, and Simon Kusat, 6 minutes and 50 seconds to go, still continue on the race, yet to pit. Ben Hicks now needs to put the hammer down. He needs to try everything to get past Jude Neville at all costs if he wishes to hold on to the championship and be the very first person to dethrone the 7-time ERA Sunday champion of Christoph Peterson. David Young tapers down the order. Jim Nielsen, Ulrich Diaga, Chris Wall, David Schutten all get on by, but Young trying to get himself going after losing it down in turn one. Lewis Knight trying to get around David Roschke in the dark as lights start to come ablaze here. It's 8 p.m. sim time. David Roschke fights it out in the BMW M4 GT3 against one of the older of the cars, no longer manufactured even by Nissan. Our Nissan GTR in the Pennzoil colours. Lewis Knight, 4-class position and right to the end. Jude Neville into the pits, and this is going to be the big one. Christoph Peterson continues on the drive. First place. Is it going to be enough, however? Karl-Heinz in second. Will also need a pit, along with Simon Kussat. But Jude Neville's into the pits, which means Ben Hicks is up into third for the Diamond Division. And if Hunter's right on this one, will be taking the championship. And he is 26 seconds away from Sean Skitter. That turned him around into turn one after outbraking himself in a mob. Christoph Peterson's into the pits for his final pit stop. Where's this going to throw him out? 4 minutes and 35 seconds to go. Christoph Peterson is in the pits. Karl-Heinz makes his way up to the NGK chicane. He will dive into the pits. 33 seconds away from that, it's going to be Ernest Biggs. I do think Christoph Peterson has done enough to hold first, and Ernest Biggs will then get into second place. So, Christoph getting himself going now. Will be trying to get himself out. 4 minutes in this race to go, and he's out of the pits. Karl-Heinz into pit lane. Simon Kussat will be next to dive into the pits, and that means Rich Van Heed, who has gone blow for blow with drivers, will be continuing on his own drive. There's Simon into the pit. Ben Hicks gets his way by. He's going to be moving up into 4th place overall, 3rd in the Diamond Division. Jason Farmer battles against Jude Neville towards the end. This is for 7th and 8th as they continue on the drive. Jude Neville with lights ablaze on that Mercedes AMG GT3 Evo up against the Ferrari 296. The Griffin Sim Racing Team, Logistical Nightmare Racing, brawl it out with one another, and Jude Neville getting a phenomenal drive. Looked for the inside on Jason Farmer, outbraked himself and lost that little bit of time. Simon Kussat still parked in the pits, waiting to be released by the team, telling them, go, 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 let me out, let me out, let me out. Karl-Heinz will take first place of the Platinum. Simon Kussat will be coming out of the pit lane and will be second place. He's got enough of a gap to Richard Van Heed, who's currently 3rd place of the Platinum. Looking back towards our gold, it's Jim Emilson. He is 3 seconds away from Ulrich de Jager, who's in 2nd of our gold, and Patrick, a little bit further back from there, is currently in 3rd place. So, still fights out on the circuit, still brawls happening out there. Jude Neville and Jason Farmer, Rich Van Heed and Daniel Mutsuma fight it out. The South African versus Japanese at the moment. Miles Stone on the back of them, trying to figure out how can he get past. He wants 3rd here tonight to help him out in the points. Miles has an opportunity to really put salt into the wounds of the likes of the Platinum Division drivers. And beautiful inside overtake for Jude Neville. Is it going to work, however, as Jason Farmer hunted for the inside line and unfortunately couldn't quite get the drive out. There is Jude Neville just ahead of Jason Farmer, but take a look at this. Simon Kussat with the overrun gets past, dives up on the inside of Jason Farmer, gets the pass done. Jason tries to come back at him. The Bentley driver, not backing off, is fighting tooth and nail, and Jason Farmer, now gone from fighting Jude Neville, has Simon Kussat, who's got the overrun. So Simon up into 7th position, 2nd of the Platinums, gets ahead of the Diamond driver Jason Farmer as they continue on. Miles Stone, Daniel Mutsuma fight each other tooth and nail as Miles looks around the outside. It's going to be hard braking into the NGK chicane, slips across the nose of Daniel Mutsuma. He made the pass stick and now needs to fight it out, as he would have one more lap after this, I would think, to get it done and dusted. Christoph Peterson leads out the pack as he leads out currently the Diamond Division with Ernest Lindbergs running in second place. It's a good haul of points for the team, as we do have David Young once again off into the dirt. It has all gone south for the driver as he tries to pick himself up off the floor and get going. Shooting all over the back of Chris Wall. The ERA Highway Patrol and the Logistical Nightmare Racing driver continue to fight it out. Just ahead of them is Ulrich Diaga, Aaron Schugel, along with Richard Oakes, just ahead of them as they continue on their brawl just a little bit further. But Christoph Peterson waiting to come across the line. He's slow, he's slow, he's slow. He does take the checkered flag. He waited for the clock to go. He did not want to lose out. Ernest Lindbergs will take second place in this race. Carl Heinz will take first of the Platinums, third overall, but chasing him down, Ben Hicks securing third of the Diamonds. So the provisional standing with Hanso Foss stands as this: Ben Hicks, Peterson, and Lindbergs going and holding it out as that. So that is a provisional going for it, and I did see it just disappear. Come on, Hanso, you can't hide info like that. Sean Skitzer will come across the line in fifth place. So great running on his part. So for our Platinums, it'll be Long with Heinz to get the win. Stone in second. Reynolds will get gold, third. Gold division will be Hanso Foss, Jim Nielsen, and Richard Oakes as they come across the line. What a race, what a drive. And Richard van Heerd loses out that third place behind Daniel Mutsura, who gets on by Miles. Stone will come across the line. Jim Nielsen will take first of the gold division, with Ulrich Diaga finishing up second of the gold division. Chris Wall comes across the line. He's going to be happy on his result. Shooten gone and done everything he could after having himself handcuffed at the start. Third place will be Patrick Miles. What a race. What a time. Folks, we've seen it all, and here we go. David Roth fighting out with Paul Scaveras as they continue on. And Paul off into the dirt. Tried fighting Roth at the end. However, the Black Lung Bandits couldn't quite win out against the Fear the Bones driver in through the NGK chicane, but they do come across the line. Wow. Oh wow, folks. What did we just witness? History made. Championships made. Champions crowned. Some of the most epic racing in sim that I have ever called. Nose to tail. Through and through. ERA never disappoints. Only gives. And that's what we had tonight. Drivers giving it their absolute all till the very end around the Nürburgring, where it was all up in the air. It was all or nothing for the drivers. It was all or nothing to make it work here tonight. And my heavens, did we have it here tonight. So, that being said, with our provisional standings sort of there, we'll have to find out after the fact. But second place in this race, third in the provisional standings. Let's bring up Ernest Lindbergs. Come and have a chat to us. Ernest, welcome to the commentary box. Man, oh man, what a race you had out there. And the second half, you put the hammer down. How are you feeling after that?
Oh my god. This has been the most exhausting race the whole season, I think.
Now,
Whew.
take us through that race, because there was a different strategy you were playing off Christoph Peterson. You went for a fuel stop compared to a tire change to try and get the overcut. You put the hammer down to get away from Ben Hicks, but also you had to fight against Ben Hicks and also getting caught out by drivers that haven't done their pit stops and you having to slice your way through. I mean, we watched you brawling start to finish.
I mean, yeah, it appears that whenever I have really good pace on the track, I just happen to die in the first couple of laps and then I do a comeback. But yeah, I enjoyed it. After the spin, I really thought it was over, and then it was just, I guess, saving what we can save, trying to help Peterson as much as I can. And yeah, I went with the strategy because I thought that pitting for fuel on the used tires first would allow me to have more tire life in the end, and that's exactly what happened. It allowed me to overtake Ben Hicks, which was a pretty crazy dive. I will admit, sorry Hicks for that, but well held.
I mean, honestly, some epic racing there. And I mean, now third in the championship. I mean, you have been fighting tooth and nail for this one. You have been close to taking the top more than once. If we go back to season 14, you got third place on 71 points behind Ben Hicks. This time around, not quite getting that win, but still keeping yourself in the top three with a car that people slept on, the 488. I mean, take us through that. I mean, this is the season done in one of the closest seasons in ERA history across all divisions we have here in ERA in Server 1 and Server 2.
Yeah, I mean, it has been really close, and I wish I didn't mess up in those couple of races where I did mess up. But I mean, I'm happy. I'm P3 once again. I guess you can call me a P3 merchant now. But yeah, I mean, the 488 is just an amazing car to drive. It handles really well when it is within BOP. And even if it's out of BOP, it's still a pretty fun car to drive. That's why I drive it, not because it's like crazy OP or something. I really enjoy driving it, but yeah, I guess we'll see what I'll do for next season. Maybe something different.
Well, it was an incredible one, and looking towards next season is going to be an exciting one. Before I let you go and relax after such an incredible race, anything you want to say to everyone out there in the back of ERA, to all our partners here at ERA, and most importantly, the absolute petrol heads out in the virtual grandstands cheering us on week in and week out here at ERA, and to all the drivers and teams. I'm sure you've got a few words that you'd like to share from your side to them.
I mean, yeah, all I want to say is that GG's to Ben Hicks. He really put the fight to Peterson, and yeah, and GG's to Peterson for actually hanging on to the 7th title. And of course, thanks everyone for watching. It's really much appreciated.
Well, absolutely great stuff. Innocentbergs, congratulations. Second in the race and finishing up third in the championship. Well done. The Fear of the Bones driver just absolutely putting the hammer down and really getting on going. But that being said, we're going to bring in our winner of tonight's race and provisional second place for the very first time after 7 times he's gone and won the ERA Sunday Championship. Let's bring in the man, the myth, the legend. Let's bring in Christoph Peterson. Christoph Peterson,
Hey.
Welcome to the commentary box. Firstly, what a drive from you tonight to really put the hammer down, setting the precedent of you here to brawl it out. The nerves must have been through the roof heading into this race, considering of how close the championship is between yourself and Ben Hicks.
Yeah, you're spot on. It was a roller coaster of emotions. Like, I'm so happy now because I'm not provisionally P2, I'm provisionally P1. This is the first time in the season that I'm taking the lead in the championship. Like, I don't know what happens in the steering room. I don't know if anything happened, but I don't think I made like anything penalty worthy. So I think I can be happy. It's unbelievable. Like I had pretty much given up before the race. because I couldn't get any pace out of the car, and the car didn't feel good on this track. But then and then like miss out on pole, but then like yeah, I think the bad luck that I had at the start of the season just kind of turned into a lot of luck at the end of the season now. So yeah, I don't know what to say.
This was definitely a brawl of note throughout the season. We got to see you and Ben Hicks trading blows. Now, from what I've gathered, it's going to come down to who has got the most wins through the championship, or if there's a single point separating. We're going to wait to get confirmation
1 point difference.
on that.
I have 100 points after drop round, and Ben has 99 points. So that's the closest finish we ever had in the Diamond Division.
Wow. Okay. Well, then that being said, you would be the provisional champion and holding on to the crown. This would be your 8th or your 7th time you've held on to the crown
7th.
in the Diamond.
7th.
This will be the
So I'm
7th
finally
time.
living up to my profile picture.
Wow. Oh, wow. 7 times to take it, but the closest finish you've had. I mean, looking back at the season, looking back at this race, what is the thoughts running through your head? What is the knowing that the competition was right up against you this time round?
Yeah, this was the hardest task I ever had in ERA, pretty much. Like, I the first title I won, I already won in the last race by a really, really small margin. But there, my closest competitor actually didn't race, and that's what I profited from. So, especially like in the last 3 races, and at Spa and at Monza, like Ben and I met on track, and so this is also like an amazing thing that we didn't really like fought side by side maybe a lot, apart from that one overtake when he had damage at Mount Panorama, but it's still like I felt like the underdog the whole season. So I'm surprised and I'm super happy, and he would have deserved the championship as much as I did, or even more, because he worked very hard. He got so many poles, so many fast laps, so many good races. So well done, Ben. You would have deserved it too. And also thank you, Ernest, for helping me out, for being a great teammate. Same for all the other guys, for all the LNR guys and all the guys I've raced this season with, and with the Fear the Bones livery. Yeah,
Well,
I'm speechless.
well done, and definitely soak it up on that 7 crowns. And this is all provisional. We're waiting for confirmation on results, but as you heard, 1 point separation. Christoph, before I let you go, as a provisional 7-time champion, anything you want to say to all the admins out there at ERA, to all the partners here at ERA, and most importantly, and I think you can agree with me, the absolute petrol heads tuning in to watch the racing day in and day out. Over 200 views every time you guys hit the circuit that just watch all this incredible action.
Yeah, thanks to everyone who's making this possible. Thanks to everyone who donated for the league and makes the servers possible, makes us able to run practice servers all week. Thanks to all the staff for doing what they do every week. Thanks to all the drivers and everyone who's watching. Like, I think you all make this league the greatest ACC league at the moment, and I'm really happy to be a part of it. You too, Steven, by the way. I've told you this many times, but please keep commentating here. It's amazing to rewatch all the streams.
Well, with all the action, yeah, I don't think I'm going anywhere because that kept me all on my toes. But Christoph Peterson, well done once again. Provisional champion for the 7 times in a row in the Diamond Division, 1 point off the likes of Ben Hicks. Absolutely well done.
Thank you.
The Fear the Bones driver just doing a phenomenal job out there. That being said, let's bring in a championship contender who had a fight of note to claw himself back from a spin in turn 1 at the start of the race. The ERA Highway Patrol, the commissioner himself, Ben Hicks. Welcome to the commentary box. First of all, what a race. I mean, it looked like hope was over in turn 1, and somehow, some way, you fought your way all the way to the front to get yourself third in the Diamond Division for this race, provisional second place in the championship, 1 point off Christoph Peterson. I mean, it's a roller coaster of emotions. How are you feeling after that?
I mean, crazy race. I am knackered. I can't say I'm not a bit disappointed. Almost made it, so close, but that's racing. Very well deserved win overall from Chris. I think he's had his back against the wall with the car difference this season, and I mean the Ferraris were untouchable today, but they were due a race where they had the pace advantage, so I can't really complain about that one.
Well, I mean, this was just an incredible run from your side. Take us through the start of that race, because it just all flipped on its head for you. What was the emotions running through the head at that point? Because it looked like you were in for that third place, and then all of a sudden you found yourself down in 21st, 22nd position in a heartbeat. Yeah,
so I mean, the idea of this race was I was really hoping it would rain. I think the Ferraris definitely just had the pace in the dry. I could see that in qualifying and practice. But in the wet, the car felt fantastic, and we did sacrifice on setup a bit, the setup for the wet. So I think it's just really unfortunate it didn't rain, because we were rapid in the wet. I went long at the start. I filled up the tank just to see how far we could go, and I'm not sure what the others did, but they were so fast. The idea at the start was just to keep up and then see when the weather comes, but it never came. So
Well,
I did reach second at one point in class. I thought I did have it then with Ernest Lindbergh's penalty, but yeah, he was so fast, and it was a great move in the end. It was a bit of a dive, but you kind of have to on the Lexus. So I mean, fair play. It was a good move. I saw him coming.
Well,
no context.
Absolutely great stuff. I mean, season 14, you got second place in the championship. A good margin off the likes of Christoph Peterson. Now would be 1 point into it. Next season, are you looking to dethrone the king and make sure that Ben Hicks, the commissioner of the ERA Highway Patrol, will be at the top end of the order?
Well, there's only one way to improve on this season, so I guess that's what I'm going to have to do.
Absolutely great stuff. Before I let you go, after a tremendous race, a huge fight back, and provisional second place in the Diamond Championship, anything you want to say to the ERA admin, to all the drivers out there, to the teams, the partners here at ERA, and most importantly, the fans that have joined us every single week for the racing?
Yeah, of course. As Chris said, this is an amazing place to race. Thank you to all the admins, everyone setting everything up. Thank you to you for running the streams. Thank you to all the racers that turn up and let us have a race every week. And thanks to the fans in the grandstands. It really makes this worthwhile. Thank you, everybody.
Absolutely great stuff. Well, Ben, I'm going to leave you to go and enjoy. You got the second place. You won a place in our hearts. Hanso Voss was literally calculating the points as he goes. He missed out on the fastest lap of the race, but still going and cheering you on to the very end. So you have won the hearts of the people out there in the grandstands. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Ben Hicks coming in, having a chat to us. 1 point separating first and second in our diamond. That being said, we got to bring in our platinum drivers, because man oh man, taking the win tonight on an easy drive on a beautiful one, Mr. Karl Heinz. Welcome to the commentary box and congratulations on taking the Platinum Division win. How are you feeling after that?
Thank you very much. That's what's a great introduction. I'm feeling great. Instantly changed my shirt because I was sweating so much. That was a crazy race, man.
This was a total flip. If we go back to season 14, you got only one race in Platinum. You were 16th in the championship.
Yeah, that was my first race, my first league race ever last season.
And
so that was my start.
And now you are the Platinum champion. I mean, that is a total flip on the head. How did you find this season? Because if we go and take a look, Spa you got first, Snetterton you got 16th, Monza you got first, Paul Ricard you got first, Watkins Glen you got 16th, Mount Panorama you got first. You were a couple of points off Milestone. I mean, you came into this round 69 points to Milestone's 67 points. That was incredibly close. And Scott Reynolds was hanging in there with 66 points. David Roschke sitting with 62 points. Was there a lot of pressure, or did you feel calm, cool, and collected heading into this race?
Well, the two races where I finished 16th or last, I had mechanical failures on my rig. So that's why I didn't finish either of them. So I had to make it count, the last one. Got a new rig, new wheelbase, new everything. Just to be competitive, basically. And trained a lot for Nürburgring. I was actually hoping for it to be wet. Sadly, the rain didn't come. So I was out there with a suboptimal setup, so to say. But yeah, thanks to last season I joined Cyber Racing, and the guys over there did a great job of teaching me everything they know, with strategy, setup changes, how you can learn the track, everything. So shout out to them. And after that, it was just a lot of training.
Well,
a lot of training, actually.
It definitely shows the pace, and to walk home with that second place after, that first place in the Platinum after a complete flip. How was the race for you? How was the season for you? I mean, we talked about the extreme highs of wins, but you've had the extreme lows of a complete rig failure. I mean, it's a roller coaster by the sounds of it, just to come home finally with that Platinum trophy in hand and say, I have done it.
The season was great. All of the guys in Platinum are all great guys, fun to chat with and to train with. And the lows of lows were very low in this case. A few angry words were said, but in the end, everything is good. The race was very difficult. I decided to start on full fuel and tried to avoid the carnage with Hicks nearly hitting me. So got away scot-free there and then just build a gap and try to go as long as possible on the tires to have the minimum amount of traffic. And I think I did manage it quite well. The traffic as well. Everybody just got out of the way. The blue flags, everything went swimmingly. So yeah.
Well,
it was great.
It was an absolutely incredible time. And since you're here, since you are the champion, anything you would like to say to all the admins here at ERA, to all the fans cheering on every single race, coming on and just seeing the epic action, to all our partners, to the drivers and teams, and also a bit of advice to those looking in from the outside saying, do I really pull the trigger to come and race here at ERA?
Yes, thank you to all of the admins for also taking the time for someone who's not used to league racing or has never league raced before, to take the time and explain everything, the rules. There was no, you should know that, but they took their time, explained everything in great detail so that I know what's going on, basically. Thank you to everyone who did that. It was great. And also thank you for the extremely entertaining streams. Always a pleasure to watch the stream back after the race. Great commentary, and it's very fun to watch. Otherwise, yeah, if you're racing out there, don't be afraid to get into league race. It will make everything 100% better, especially here at ERA. The admins are great, everything is good, and you can learn a lot. If you just go in here and ask people, everybody is really helpful and wants everyone to improve. There's no bad blood or anything. Everybody wants everyone to improve and get better.
Absolutely wonderful stuff. Carl, once again, congratulations on scoring your win in the Platinum. We're looking forward to seeing what you can do heading into the Diamonds for next season, as I think you're going to be taking the fight to the sharp end of the field very, very soon. But congratulations yet again.
Thank you very much. Have a great evening.
Karl-Heinz taking the win in our Platinum division, having a great time out there. And what a race it has been, folks. We also got our Gold division having a good fight. Hanso Foss was leading out the championship, heading into it. I think has done enough to take the win in the championship. For our Golds, Richard Oakes was in second. I don't think he had enough points to get himself up into first place for that. But it was a great fight between himself and Jim Emilson. Federico Calgera, unfortunately, not racing tonight. Aaron Shergill would usurp him in the points there. But we do include our drop rounds in this race. But we'll get back to talking about our drivers later on and all the incredible stuff once the points have all been finalized. But ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it's been an absolute roller coaster ride here in the beautiful, beautiful sands of ERA. We have crossed the world racing on some of the hardest circuits, some of the most weirdest track selections you can ever have, conditions that have been from one extreme to the other to end it off on a 90-minute that at no point you could stay seated and say, hey, listen, I'm here, I'm going to just relax and have a drink in hand. But a massive, massive shout out to all our admins working frantically in the background here at ERA to make sure that we have servers up. A massive thank you to all those that have donated here at ERA. And if you wish to donate to the league, please do take a look in the link in the description. Be a part of the ERA. And we do also invite you. It's completely free to come and join us here at ERA. We love to share. We love to teach. We've got racing during the course of the week as well, with some fun races on a Friday night. We got some teaching as well during the course of the week here at ERA, and we love to get your feedback. But also, phenomenal work had by all. And honestly, I take my hat off to every single one of the teams and drivers that have fought it out during the course of the season, or even just joining us for this race. It has been an absolute honor. It's been exciting. It's been crazy. It's been over the top. And we're getting to see how close history was to be made. And it was here at ERA, with 1 point separating first and second of our Diamond division. Ben Hicks narrowly missing out purely on a quicker lap time, where Peterson did a 154.017. Hicks did a 154.4. And that was with Hanso Foss giving us a bit of information. Shout out to him. But ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, kids of all ages, a massive shout out to you, the fans, the petrol heads, the family, the friends, the drivers, and the drivers that raced and re-watching the entire broadcast. Thank you. Without you, we would not be here. Without you, our drivers wouldn't be pushing so hard. Without you, we wouldn't have superstars. Without you, history would be silenced in the background, with no one to see, no one to cheer, whether you're going and finding friend or foe, enemy, rival, hero, anti-hero. We have it all, and you make it entirely possible So, from all of us here at ERA, our hearts go out to you. Thank you so much for an incredible season. Thank you so much for all your time. Thank you so much for joining us. We would love to see you joining our Discord. We would love to see you joining our races and to be part of the ERA family and join us for next season of our ERA Sunday Championship. Do head over to SimGrid as we've got our Endurance Championships as well running. And we would love to see you, your friends, and your family joining us in for those races as well. But ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls from the Nürburgring here in Germany, I'd like to say on behalf of Jim, our flag marshal, who has been calling shot for shot every single time out there for green, yellow, and checkered. For Tim out on the cameras, whether he's in the helicopter, whether he's on the corners, whether he's in the car, he has been there looking after us. Massive shout out to you, Tim and Jim. You guys are legends. But from myself, Stephen Koenig, here at TAT Productions, I want to say thank you so much for having me in your homes, having me in your ears, and I do apologize for all the insanity that came with it. But ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, for the final time this season, you say it with me. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and for the final time for ERA Sunday Championship Season 15, good night, everybody!